We are a people impregnated with fear, even afraid of believing in anything at all. However, when one has the truth and knows it, when he has that conviction, he is not concerned with antagonistic opinions of others, or judgment and condemnation passed upon him by skeptics and non-believers. No one's opinions or ridicule ever has or ever will change that which is truth, for truth is infinite. Many are called, but few are chosen, because they falter by the wayside and are weak. One must be strong and willing. You can't be half-hearted. It must be understood that God has no preferences whatsoever. He is no respecter of persons, for the sun shines alike on all. By their works you shall know them. For each individual has the free and God-given right to choose, and can therefore only be said to be a chosen one because he makes his own choice. He determines his own destiny as he so wills to do good or evil. God does not send tests to mortals, but mortal man tests himself by his own giving in to weakness, by his lack of strength, effort, and perseverance. He looks out instead of within. He has not learned to meditate upon himself. When he meditates on his pains, worries, and troubles, and he immerses himself in them and makes them stronger and more binding. Man is a god, but a god bound within the world of illusion. His body, his mind partakes of this world, yet man has within himself the power to transcend this material earth in which he dwells, if he will only learn to know himself. As long as man is separated from his spiritual existence, that long he comes under the material law of disorder and inharmony. That long he is bound by conditions and experiences of his environment and life. As long as man is separate from wisdom, he is separate from reality. And as long as he is separate from reality, he cannot know himself or God. And when man reaches the state of universal consciousness, or at one-ment with God, there are no divisions, no attributes, nor qualities, nothing but awareness. I say unto you that within man's own nature lies the key that will release him from bondage, that within man's own nature lies the lock and the bar that will fetter him from freedom. Each man within himself must use the key. No one may do it for you. Only you may do it for yourself. The time has come when man in this outer material world must realize that the time is at hand when all the things of chaos and negation are to be broken up, when they are to be reshaped on the potter's wheel and come forth as a perfect vessel, and all those who are not so shaped will become the fragments when the vessel is found imperfect. Other folks query, what about our government? Official recognition from the governments of the world and its religious leaders could present the truth of interplanetary visitors coming here in friendship. But as of now, the government is reluctant to concede much of any data relative to the presence of interplanetary craft and beings from other planets. It is not so much the governments, but the power behind them that enforces suppression. It is apprehended that once the lid is off, the truth exposed, and people realize the truth of a greater way of life, the present status of laws could become null and void, meaningless and immaterial to a people who comprehend a righteous freedom that permits of a constructive, positive way of life instead of a destructive, negative one. Remember, nature is free, and man is born in a free state, but he places himself in bondage from birth henceforth by customs, fear, tradition, creeds, religious tenets, and legislative laws, dwelling in the darkness of illusion, arguing and reasoning from appearances. The lid off would mean total reconversion, scientifically, politically, religiously, morally, philosophically, and economically, in every department of national and international life. It would mean a new dispensation, which our established government is not at this time inclined to tolerate. A drastic change is nevertheless due this world of ours, for it is to become a place of tranquil peace and concord, of what is real and godly, where all men will live together in true brotherhood, having cast aside the bondage of life to the world of illusion, and knowing all things as they are in their true and ultimate reality. Even now our government could be of extensive recourse to its people in the way of better enlightenment and greater understanding of what actually is. They could throw new light on religions and churches and Bibles. It is said there is opposition to the church, and there is a campaign to crush that opposition, to frighten the average man from expressing doubts about the many religious divisions, about church, about God, and about the corporation control of the one-party press. That there are more than 55% of the people of the United States who do not belong to any church or affiliated religious group, and a muzzled press and radio make it virtually impossible for these people to obtain the truth about organized religion, which could not survive in its present form were the truth known. The many labels of religion could be removed and superseded by one standard religion, based in its entirety on the teachings taught by Jesus the Christ to his disciples, a teaching as old as antiquity, yet in so many ways new to present-day man, for he has long been forbidden certain knowledge which he was not yet ready to receive. The government has in its possession an ancient book or manuscript about which newspapers carried a brief article in the spring of 1955. It was placed in the Congressional Museum for research and study. From it our knowledge of the philosophical and historical foundation of religion could be greatly enriched, and could, with certain other scrolls, have a direct effect on current religious beliefs that would result in a clearer and greater cognizance by the layman of man and his religions. A revision of school textbooks is greatly needed. Men of science are learning many things they never knew before. They have attained much knowledge which is contrary to old theories propagated and taught by our school systems. But all boards of education in practically all instances refuse to allow anything to be taught that is not printed in the school textbook. It is imperative that these books be discarded, as they are a detriment to our children's education, and serve only to retard the growth, both in children and adults, of a better understanding of what actually is, thus slowing the progress of the race. Our public schools are failing to awaken intellectual interest in their students or promote a desire and incentive for greater learning. Our present educational systems are allowing much talent to go largely to waste. We have spent 10 million years in evolutionary progress to rise to the position where we now stand. Yet with all we know that past generations did not know, with all we can do that past generations could not do, we are only now on the threshold of still a greater life in which we will be literally a different type of race, a superior race, but first the cobwebs of ignorance and superstition must be lifted from the eyes of all people on earth and replaced with truth, reason, and freedom. Freedom from enslavement to negation, to greed, fear, lust, hypocrisy, bigotry, war, and destruction. Many preconceived ideas and subversive organizations must be broken down and exposed. We must not allow ourselves to be hampered further by any question of precedents or traditions, but rather free ourselves from the outworn traditions and habits of thought, and establish a new method, a new approach to life.